What's up, y'all? Welcome back to TRU's Podcast with your host, True Car. Today I wanted to talk about imaginary constraints and really understanding how your mind can be your worst enemy, or you can turn it into a space to where it can be your best asset. And I think it's important to understand that when it comes to really connecting with yourself and connecting to freedom and connecting to peace. Because a lot of the times our mind can be our worst enemy, when in reality, if you allow yourself to step back and be the observer of what is really happening in your life, it's not that bad, or it's something that you can really take your power back from and really understand that you have more control than you think you have in your life, or understanding that all you needed to do was surrender. All you needed to do was surrender and let go. And I think it's important to understand a lot of the times when it comes to the constraints that we put around, our situations, or around love, or around the conversation that we need to have with the uncomfortable conversation that we need to have with ourselves, or the people that we love, or the people that are around us. We get into our minds about it when all you needed to do was speak up, or all you needed to do was take one step in front of you, and the space would have been clear. Because a lot of the times, we look so far into the future that we don't understand that all we needed to take was one step to be in the space that brings us that abundance, whether that be abundance in love or finances, or abundance within ourselves, and seeing our own worth and our own value. And a lot of the times what that comes from is, in my personal opinion, what that comes from is the toxic relationships, or the connections that we had when we were kids, or your mother wound or your father wound, or being around your siblings and them stepping in and taking the role of your parent when they were kids themselves, or whatever the case may be. And I think it's important to understand within connections, that people are exactly who they are meant to be to you. And whether it be is coming from a harsh lesson, they're giving you a harsh lesson, or a painful lesson that you need to learn from them, or whether they are showing you love and you not being able to receive it because you have a blockage within you. I think it's important to understand to do the work to release that resistance, or do the work to release the trauma surrounding those connections, so that you can understand the actual lesson that you needed to take from those connections. What the is that? Oh, that's a cat. That's a big ass cat. Damn. I just seen a big ass cat over there. But yeah, I think it's important to understand that everybody comes into your life for a reason. For me personally, I think everybody has a purpose in your life, and sometimes that purpose is painful just so you can see how powerful you really are, just so you can see yourself for who you really are, and really take the lessons that you need to take from those situations. Because I also personally believe that we choose our mothers and our fathers before we come into this world, and we choose, our families before we come into this world, to really, shift and create the human that we are meant to be. And so I think it's important to understand, for me personally, I didn't grow up where I was raised by my parents. I grew up because by the time I was in the 6th grade, I lived in like 27 different households. And some of them, and it might have even been like 30 something, but some of them my mom lived with us. And I have 3 other siblings. So 2 of my siblings were basically grown, and the one that I lived with in those different households, it was just me and her. So growing up in those type of environments where those people weren't family and most of them were strangers, when you're around that type of environment, when you're a kid and when you're being shifted and molded into the person that you're meant to be, and you're around strangers that don't necessarily love you, but they're just doing you a favor, or they're just doing your parents a favor, or whatever the case may be, you can feel that. You know what I mean? And so I think it's important to understand what I've learned from that, what I've taken from that situation in those different connections or those different spaces that I was in, was I learned how to adapt. I learned how to adapt in any situation and become a chameleon, and I also learned how to be myself, show up as myself, and still bring parts of me to situations. But I also learned how to push down parts of me in certain situations. And for me personally, as I've grown into the person that I am today, and through my healing journey, I learned that I don't need to push down certain parts of me to conform to other people's perceptions or projections of what they think I should be. And I learned by being my authentic self, it pushes away people that are not aligned with who I am, and it puts me in a space of protection, and also understanding in the past, I thought I was protecting myself by being a chameleon and by just showing certain parts of myself, but really what I was doing was creating connections that didn't love me for the complete version of me. They just wanted me to show up as certain parts to make them feel comfortable. And so basically what I'm saying is, you want to be the person that becomes the observer of how you always shown up to so-called protect yourself. You have unconsciously put yourself in a prison. You want to make sure that you become the observer of how you have imprisoned yourself in your own mind, in your own emotions as well. And I think it's important to understand, the more you become the observer and really do the work in order to release and let go of those constraints that you put on yourself, is the more free you will feel externally, but most importantly internally, which will put you in a position to be the creator of your own reality, and also surrender in spaces where you can't, or where you don't have the power to create in that space. Because for me, I do believe in God, so I do believe that you are a co-creator when it comes to God. So if you are putting yourself in a prison, you're not allowing yourself to do your part in the life that you want, or the life that God destined you to have when God created you. And I think that's important to understand. So breaking down and simplifying and understanding what you need to intentionally heal first in order to really break the cycles within yourself, or break the cycles that you are unintentionally creating within your life, or unintentionally creating within different connections. But in order for you to break cycles and release and forgive, you have to understand to feel, and you have to understand to be okay with feeling, and breaking down and understanding why you felt like feeling was a weakness, or why you felt like you had to turn your feelings off altogether to survive. Because as human beings, we have to understand how to get out of this robotic thought process of we just have to get up and go and get to the money and get to the money, or whatever the case may be. We have to understand that we are supposed to be the attractors. We are supposed to be, because money is energy, so you're meant to be aligned with money, and money is meant to be aligned with you. You are not meant to chase an object. because you are not an object. You are energy, you are light, you are more than this physical, you are more than what you see. And I think that's important to understand, and it's important to understand what is keeping you from seeing that or feeling that, because we are all meant to be free and meant to be ourselves and show up authentically and make money off of that, or just be, and allow yourself to be and see the value within that. So I think it's important to understand, to really see what is holding you back from seeing your own value and your own worth without the money and the cars and the clothes or the people around you. If you had none of that, would you still be able to see your worth and your value? Because that's just meant to be accessories, not your whole package, because you're meant to be whole and complete within yourself, and you are whole and complete within yourself, but it's important for you to be able to feel that and understand that yourself. But yeah, I think it's important to just understand, to see where you are imprisoning yourself, and to see and to figure out a way to free yourself within that imprisonment. Because sometimes the imprisonment is just you thinking too hard about something that is really not existent, or you caring too much about what somebody else thinks or says or feels about who you are meant to be showing up as an individual. You care too much about what somebody thinks that is conditionally loving you. And I think it's important to understand, to not put yourself in a box where you are surrounding yourself with people that conditionally love you, and then taking that personal and allowing yourself to conditionally love yourself as well. It's important to unconditionally love yourself and see your own worth and see your own value, and create connections outside of yourself from that space of internal love, and creating space and distance with those people that conditionally love you and only love you when you are it's not even love what they are giving you. They're just giving you attention. They're not even giving you love, because they don't even know what love feels like. So you're yearning for this love from somebody else that doesn't even have the capacity to give you the love that you are yearning for in the first place. So I think it's important to just break those conditions and see it for what it is, and have compassion for those people, but also don't allow yourself to have expectations for somebody that has always shown you who they were in the first place. Allow people to be who they are, but also place them where they should be placed in your life as well. Because a person that conditionally loves you does not deserve a front row seat to your love and your affection and your time and energy. They deserve to be at a safe distance, whether that be in your life, whether that be out of your life, or whether that be, to be honest with you, I think they deserve a seat out of your life, because you want to show up authentically as you can, and who you are is a loving person. Who you are is a person that is nurturing and caring, and you don't need people in your life that you have to dim down or try to do bare minimum just to connect to them. You want connections in your life that you can completely show up as yourself, and if you can't, that shouldn't be your friend, that shouldn't be your girlfriend, that shouldn't be your boyfriend, that shouldn't be somebody that you are always around and close to. It should be at the most acquaintance, associate, somebody that you see around and you say hey and bye to, and you have the quickest conversation that you ever had in your life. And I think that's important to understand. They don't deserve your energy or your time if they want to just conditionally love you and only want you to show up as what they can control. You want to have people in your life that you accept them for them, their flaws and all, but also understanding when it comes to that, if their flaws hurt you, if their flaws is manipulating you, belittling you, breaking you down, that is not what I'm saying when I say accept somebody's flaws. When I say accepting somebody's flaws, I mean this person might be sensitive, so sometimes you have to watch what you say to them, but you can still be honest with them. You have to nurture them a little bit more. That's what I mean by so-called flaws. That's not really a flaw to me, but that's what I mean by, flaws are this person might not be the richest, but they have a beautiful heart. That's what I mean by a so-called flaw. Like something that is not really affecting you. It's just who this person is, and it might not be they might not be perfect. That's what I mean by a flaw. I don't mean they belittle you and break you down and try to, be passive aggressive and try to make you devalue yourself. Those people should not be in your life. That's what I mean by cutting those people out. And also, when it comes to yourself, you want to be able to see yourself and your self-worth so that people can't manipulate you into not seeing your own worth or seeing your own value and what you bring to the table or what you bring to them and the value you bring to them as well. And you don't want to imprisonate yourself in connections either. I think it's important to understand that release the traps that you have in the spaces that you felt like you had to conform to fit in or feel loved. And it might be scary to walk away, or it might be scary to have that uncomfortable conversation, but sometimes you have to face your fears in order to understand that it wasn't a fear, that it wasn't something that you really needed to be afraid of in the first place. So I think it's important to understand that sometimes you have to just do it for you to see that it was an illusion the whole time, or it was something better on the other side of that, whether that be freedom from that connection or whether that be you really seeing how much you have grown as an individual. Are you really seeing your value? Are you really seeing the value of that connection, or whatever the case may be? I think it's important to understand, to really break down the gates that you put around yourself and step out of that sometimes, and really so that you can step out of it altogether. Because I'm not saying rush yourself. I'm saying go at the pace that you need to go in order to free yourself. Nurture yourself along the way, and nurture your emotions along the way, and show up as that mother for yourself, show up as that father for yourself, and learn how to be disciplined and be the protector and be the voice that you always needed or that you always wanted somebody else to be for you. Be that protector that you always needed or you always wanted somebody else to be for you. I think that's important to understand. Learning how to balance yourself, learning how to balance your masculine and your feminine energy in order to create and co-create with the universe, or co-create with God. And I think that's important to understand. But yeah, this is Truth's Podcast with your host, True Car. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you go over to my Spotify and check that out. And also, if you are looking for a one-on-one coaching session on, spirituality, or learning how to heal through spirituality or meditation, I am offering one-on-one sessions. So make sure that you click the link in my bio, or make sure that you go to my email and email me on there, TRU88Car@gmail.com. And also, if y'all have topics that y'all want me to speak on my podcast, make sure that y'all also go to my email and email me on there, and I'll talk about the topics. Or if you need advice, you can email me at my email as well, and I'll put it on the screen or in the link or in the description box down below. And yeah, this is Truth's Podcast with your host, True Car.